Most people believe attraction begins with what you say. They think the right compliment, the clever line, or the perfectly timed joke is what draws someone closer. But the truth is often the opposite. Attraction is frequently shaped by what you choose not to say. Words can create warmth, but they can also quietly build walls. Certain phrases carry subtle pressure, judgment, or expectation. Even when they sound harmless on the surface, they can make someone feel evaluated rather than understood. When a woman senses that kind of tension in a conversation, her mind begins to protect itself. She may still smile, she may still respond politely, but internally she begins to create distance. Emotional safety disappears in small, almost invisible moments. This is why the most powerful communicators are not the ones who talk the most or speak the loudest. They are the ones who understand the emotional weight of language. They recognize that every phrase sends a signal about intention, respect, and awareness. When those signals feel calm and respectful, people naturally relax. And when someone relaxes in your presence, something important begins to happen. Curiosity replaces caution. Instead of wondering what your words mean or whether there is hidden pressure behind them, she begins to feel comfortable simply being herself. That comfort is often the real beginning of attraction. Emotional safety is rarely discussed when people talk about desire, but it is one of the strongest forces behind it. When someone feels safe in a conversation, their natural personality begins to open. They laugh more easily, they share more honestly, and they become more present in the moment. This shift does not happen because of dramatic statements or bold moves. It happens because the conversation feels balanced and respectful. When certain harmful phrases disappear, the entire tone of an interaction changes. Instead of feeling like a performance or a test, the exchange begins to feel genuine. A woman starts to sense that she is not being judged, rushed, or compared. She simply feels seen and heard. That emotional atmosphere can be surprisingly powerful. People are naturally drawn toward environments where they feel calm and valued. In those spaces, desire does not feel forced or manipulated. It grows quietly through trust and comfort. This is why mindful language matters so much. The words you avoid can speak louder than the words you choose. By removing phrases that create pressure or defensiveness, you allow the conversation to breathe. And when a conversation breathes, connection often follows in a way that feels natural rather than calculated. One of the quickest ways to damage a connection is by trying to control where the interaction goes. Many people do this without realizing it. They ask questions that are not really questions. They make statements that quietly pressure the other person, or they use phrases that push for a specific response. At first glance, it may look like confidence, but emotionally, it often feels like control. When a woman senses that someone is trying to steer her choices or speed up the connection, a subtle resistance appears. Human beings value autonomy deeply. We want to feel that our thoughts, decisions, and feelings belong to us. The moment a conversation begins to feel like someone is trying to guide our reactions or manage our interest, the mind naturally pulls back. This is why certain phrases can quietly weaken attraction. They suggest impatience, expectation, or entitlement. Instead of feeling respected, the other person may feel managed. True confidence does not rely on control. It allows space for the other person to think, respond, and move at their own pace. When you remove controlling language from your conversations, something important changes. The interaction stops feeling like a negotiation and begins to feel like a shared experience. A woman is far more likely to remain engaged when she senses that her independence is respected rather than challenged. Respecting autonomy sends a powerful emotional signal. It communicates that you are comfortable with yourself and that you do not need to push for validation. This type of calm presence often stands out because it is rare. Many conversations are filled with subtle attempts to impress, persuade, or accelerate closeness. But when someone speaks in a way that allows freedom, the entire tone becomes more relaxed. A woman begins to feel that she can express her opinions without being corrected, take her time without being rushed, and engage without feeling obligated. That freedom creates trust, and trust often becomes the foundation for deeper attraction. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel respected and emotionally safe. When autonomy is honored, curiosity replaces pressure. Instead of feeling like she needs to defend her independence, she becomes more open to exploring the connection. Conversations flow more naturally, laughter feels less forced, and the interaction gains a sense of authenticity. This is why avoiding controlling phrases matters so much. It is not about holding back or saying less. It is about communicating in a way that values the other person's freedom. When that respect is present, the interaction becomes something both people can genuinely enjoy rather than something one person is trying to direct. Comparison is one of those habits that quietly damages connection without people realizing it. It can appear in small comments that seem harmless at first. Someone might mention how another person behaved in a similar situation or casually say that most people they know would react differently. Even when the intention is not negative, the effect can feel uncomfortable. When a woman senses that she is being compared, the conversation shifts from understanding to evaluation. Instead of feeling like she is being appreciated for who she is, she may feel like she is being measured against an invisible standard. That kind of atmosphere rarely supports attraction. People generally do not feel relaxed when they believe they are part of a comparison. It creates a subtle pressure to perform or defend themselves. Over time, that pressure builds emotional distance. The conversation stops feeling personal and begins to feel like a quiet competition with people who are not even present. When you remove comparative language, the dynamic changes immediately. The focus returns to the individual in front of you. Curiosity replaces judgment, and the interaction begins to feel more authentic. A woman is far more likely to remain engaged when she senses that the conversation is about understanding her perspective rather than placing it beside someone else's. When someone feels seen as an individual, trust begins to grow naturally. People want to know that their thoughts, experiences, and personality are being valued for their own uniqueness. When comparisons disappear from the conversation, it sends a subtle but powerful message. It shows that you are not trying to rank, judge, or categorize the person you are speaking with. Instead, you are genuinely interested in discovering who they are. This creates a sense of emotional ease. A woman no longer feels the need to prove that she is better than someone else or explain why she is different. She simply feels free to be herself. That freedom often leads to deeper and more engaging conversations. Stories become more personal, laughter becomes more genuine, and the interaction gains a sense of sincerity that cannot be forced. Attraction often grows in those kinds of spaces because they feel rare. Many conversations in everyday life contain subtle comparisons, whether about appearance, lifestyle, or behavior. When someone avoids that pattern, it stands out. It communicates emotional awareness and maturity. Over time, that respectful approach creates a stronger foundation for connection because it is built on appreciation rather than measurement. One of the most overlooked factors in building attraction is patience. Many people unintentionally disrupt a connection because they try to move too quickly. They want immediate clarity, immediate closeness, or immediate signs of interest. That urgency often shows up in the phrases they use. Questions become slightly demanding, comments carry an expectation, and the conversation begins to feel rushed. Even when the intention is positive, the emotional signal behind it can feel overwhelming. When a woman senses that someone is pushing the interaction forward too quickly, her instinct may be to slow things down or create distance. Human connections rarely develop well under pressure. Attraction is not something that can be accelerated simply by asking for it. Instead, it tends to grow gradually through shared moments and comfortable conversation. Patience communicates something important about a person's emotional stability. It shows that they are not desperate for validation and that they respect the natural rhythm of getting to know someone. When urgency disappears from the language of a conversation, the entire atmosphere begins to feel calmer. A woman no longer feels like she needs to respond in a certain way or match someone else's pace. Instead, she can simply engage in the moment without feeling that every word is part of a test or expectation. This slower and more relaxed pace often creates a stronger connection over time. When patience is present, conversations gain space to develop naturally, small topics can evolve into meaningful discussions, and both people have time to understand each other's personality. A woman begins to notice that the interaction feels easy rather than demanding. That sense of ease can be surprisingly attractive because it allows her to relax mentally and emotionally. When people feel comfortable, their genuine personality starts to appear. They laugh more freely, speak more honestly, and show curiosity without hesitation. This is where real connection often begins. It is not built through dramatic moments or intense pressure, but through consistent, respectful interaction. By avoiding impatient phrases and allowing the conversation to unfold naturally, you demonstrate emotional awareness. You show that you are capable of enjoying the present moment rather than rushing toward a specific outcome. That kind of calm presence stands out because many interactions today feel hurried and transactional. When someone brings patience into the conversation, it signals maturity and confidence. Over time, that steady approach creates a foundation where attraction can grow quietly and comfortably instead of feeling forced. Many people believe that attraction comes from saying impressive things. They search for clever compliments, dramatic statements, or perfectly crafted lines that will make them appear more interesting. At first, this might seem effective, but over time, it often creates the opposite reaction. When someone relies too heavily on rehearsed phrases, the conversation can begin to feel like a performance rather than a genuine interaction. A woman may sense that the words are designed to impress rather than express something real. That subtle difference changes the emotional tone of the conversation. Instead of feeling relaxed, she may start to wonder whether the person she is speaking with is showing their true personality or simply playing a role. Authenticity becomes difficult to detect when language sounds overly polished or exaggerated. Real connection usually grows in moments that feel natural and unforced. When people speak honestly and without unnecessary drama, their personality becomes clearer. Authentic communication does not require complicated lines or exaggerated compliments. In fact, it often appears through simple and sincere expressions. When a conversation feels genuine, it becomes easier for both people to trust what is being said. That trust creates a comfortable space where attraction can develop without pressure or confusion. Authenticity also allows curiosity to grow naturally. When someone speaks without trying to impress, the interaction feels more balanced and human. A woman begins to sense that she is talking to someone who is comfortable being themselves. That type of confidence is often far more appealing than carefully rehearsed charm. People are naturally drawn to individuals who do not feel the need to perform for approval. It signals emotional stability and self-acceptance. In those moments, the conversation stops being about winning attention and becomes about sharing experiences and perspectives. This shift makes the interaction more engaging because it feels real rather than strategic. Honest reactions, thoughtful questions, and genuine interest create a connection that scripted phrases rarely achieve. Over time, authenticity builds a stronger emotional foundation. A woman begins to trust the consistency between words and behavior, which strengthens the sense of reliability in the interaction. When someone avoids exaggerated language and simply communicates in a natural way, the atmosphere becomes more relaxed. That relaxed environment allows both people to express themselves freely. Instead of trying to impress each other, they begin to enjoy the conversation itself. And often, it is in those simple and genuine moments that attraction quietly begins to grow. One of the most powerful yet overlooked elements of attraction is the ability to truly listen. Many conversations appear balanced on the surface, but if you observe closely, you will notice that people often listen only long enough to prepare their next response. They interrupt, redirect the topic, or dismiss certain thoughts without realizing it. These habits can quietly damage a connection. When a woman feels that her words are not fully heard, the conversation begins to lose its warmth. She may continue speaking, but the emotional depth slowly fades. Listening is not simply about staying silent while someone else talks. It is about showing genuine interest in what the other person is expressing. Certain phrases can make someone feel ignored or minimized, especially when they interrupt a thought or dismiss a feeling. When those phrases disappear, the conversation becomes more respectful and balanced. A woman begins to notice that her ideas are being received rather than corrected or overlooked. That feeling of being heard creates emotional comfort. People naturally feel drawn toward individuals who allow them the space to express themselves without judgment or interruption. In many cases, the quality of listening matters more than the cleverness of speaking. When someone demonstrates attentive listening, it sends a strong signal of respect. A woman begins to sense that her experiences and opinions matter in the conversation. This recognition can deepen engagement because it removes the pressure to compete for attention. Instead of feeling like she must prove her point or repeat herself, she can speak openly and naturally. Conversations become more thoughtful when both people feel comfortable sharing their perspectives. Listening also encourages curiosity. When you respond to what someone has actually said rather than steering the discussion back to yourself, it shows that you are present in the moment. That presence creates a calm and genuine atmosphere. A woman often notices when someone remembers small details or asks questions that show real interest. These signals demonstrate that the conversation is not superficial. Over time, this kind of interaction builds trust because it shows emotional awareness and patience. When dismissive or interrupting phrases are avoided, the exchange feels smoother and more respectful. The conversation becomes a shared experience rather than a competition for attention. In that environment, connection grows more naturally because both people feel valued and understood. Confidence is often misunderstood in conversations. Many people believe that sounding dominant, bold, or overly certain will make them appear more attractive. They may use strong statements about themselves, exaggerate their achievements, or speak in a way that constantly tries to prove their value. At first glance, this behavior may look like confidence, but it often reveals the opposite. When someone repeatedly tries to convince others of their importance, it can signal insecurity rather than strength. A woman listening to such language may begin to feel that the conversation is more about self-promotion than genuine connection. Instead of feeling engaged, she may feel like an audience to someone's personal presentation. True confidence usually appears much quieter than people expect. It does not require constant reminders of success or superiority. A confident person allows their actions, tone, and calm presence to speak for them. They do not feel the need to dominate every conversation or prove their worth through exaggerated statements. When arrogant or boastful phrases disappear from the interaction, something important changes. The conversation begins to feel more balanced and respectful. A woman can participate freely rather than feeling overshadowed by someone trying to impress her. Quiet confidence creates a very different emotional atmosphere. When someone speaks calmly and does not rush to prove themselves, it communicates a deep sense of self-assurance. A woman often notices this kind of stability because it feels rare in a world where many interactions involve competition for attention. Instead of hearing constant claims about achievements or status, she experiences a conversation where both people can contribute equally. This balance allows curiosity to grow naturally. Rather than trying to outshine each other, the focus shifts toward understanding and shared experience. Confidence without arrogance also shows emotional maturity. It demonstrates that a person values respect more than dominance and connection more than validation. Over time, this type of communication builds trust because it feels authentic and grounded. A woman